One thing I found interesting, you probably guys have had it quite a lot as well. Like you've had, you have people, obviously the people that get to the top, they're on TV, but I think you guys come across people that have a very large following, but they're not necessarily on TV. Like they have large local followings that will follow them everywhere they go, like massively. And one of the things that I want to sort of why I invited you guys on because I see a lot of Edinburgh shows, and like they ask people to, they're really good shows, and they ask people to give money, they ask people to do that, but there isn't much. Even when a show's really gone that well, they don't really sort of capitalize on the show so that they have these fans for life. Like they're not getting people invested, like getting them in a main list or building a fan base from there. And one of the things that I often see is like I myself with some of the comedy clubs, I take down the mailing lists on, and I had people on there. I had a good show. They put the name in, but then once you've added them in, you start sending emails. They're virtually dead. Like it's like they're like, who's this? They completely ignore you a lot of the times. And what would you say is your advice to performers to sort of when they've had a good show or comedy promoters or any sort of promoters in entertainment? How do they capitalize on a good show and keep an engaged mailing list?
I think we've got to remember that people only join a mailing list, they only follow you on TikTok, or they stalk you on Instagram or whatever, for one reason, and that is their own self-interest, their own self-serving. So you've got to give them a really good frame. You've got to show them what is the benefit to them of being on your emailing list, because it's got nothing to do with you. It's if you think being on your email list has anything to do with you, then you there's a little bit of rewiring to do, and that is the only reason people are on our email list and they go to our websites or our Facebook groups and they join our email list is not because they want to know what Rob and Kennedy are up to. They couldn't give two stuffs what Rob and Kennedy are doing. They don't care Rob had his hair done last week. Nobody gives a toss. What they care about is, in our world, if you want to do better email marketing and make more sales of your products and courses and stuff, then you want to learn how to do that. You want the outcome of that thing. And there are different types of value you can give along the way that run in parallel with that. But if it's not serving someone's actual personal self-interest, then there's no reason for them to open your emails. There's no reason for them to give you their email address at all. So what are their self-interests? What are the things they could care about? Well, one of them, if you're a venue, if you're a comedy club, one of the things they might like is a discount voucher, a coupon code, a buy one, get one for half price, a drinks voucher, a meal package, whatever it is that you can package together. Can you give them something that they're going to benefit from as a reason to join the email list initially? But that's not enough, because if you say, hey, if you give us your email address, we'll send you like free tickets for the next year. Right, let's say your offer was as good as that. I mean, you wouldn't want to make that offer. That would be insane. But if that was your offer, what will still happen is people will still not open your emails. And the reason is because as soon as it's a transaction and they've purchased with their email address, and that's the currency, right? If you look at all these different types of currency we've got now, we've got pounds, we've got dollars, we've got crypto, we've got whatever anybody else, little pictures of things and imaginary what's it. All this stuff is currency, and email addresses are currency. So when somebody gives you their email address because you say, hey, give us your email address and I'll give you a voucher, that transaction is now complete. They owe you nothing. You owe them nothing. That is a complete transaction. So there needs to be a longer term reason to keep hearing from you. What is that going to be? If you're an act and you have a significant following, maybe your following does want to know when you're going to be performing locally to them again if you don't perform locally every week. Because if you're a local act and you're really well known in your local area and you're at the chicken and rice pub down the road on Saturday, you don't want to email them on Sunday going, oh, well, I'm at the Fox and Finch tomorrow. Like, do you know what? That's just down the road. They're 10 doors away. Whereas if you perform nationally and in each area, each location, let's say you're in Newcastle one night at the Stand in Newcastle or whatever, and that's great. You collect those people's data so they can find out when you're going to be in Newcastle again, because tomorrow or next week, you're going to be in London or you're going to be in Birmingham or whatever you're going to be. So that's one reason if people really do care where you're going to be. But the truth is, Most of the time, we've got to come up with a much bigger reason for them to actually care. And what could that be? If you use something during your show where there might be some merch off the back of it that will really be really valuable to them, as in it's really fun, it's really quirky, it's really witty, it'll make them look good, it'll make them feel good in front of their friends, or whatever. If they want to find out about that and you happen to wear it during your show, or you happen to mention it during your show, that might be a thing to mail about. But the really important thing is, nobody wants to be in your email list. Nobody wants to be there just because they want to stalk you. That's not how it works. There has to be value for them. And that might be whatever you come up with. And, you know, we're all creative people. We can come up with ideas. And that was just me making stuff off the top of my head.
I think one of the things we see a lot with comedy clubs is that they'll run like and this is the promoters specifically of the club, is they'll run some kind of contest in the interval where they'll say, you know, fill in this little slip and put it in this box, and then you might win 2 free tickets or a bottle of wine, or, you know, whatever it's going to be. And the truth is, I mean, people could put anything they want on that piece of paper. First of all, they could put, you know, obi1@kenobi.com and stick that in the box. Or they could literally, if they do put their real email address in, which I trust probably most people do, if they put their real email address in, they're sort of doing it because they want to win the thing, not because they're particularly interested in what's going on around them. So I think one of the things we should be aware of is that you're better to grow a really small but very responsive list than to have all the subscribers in the world who don't care and don't open because that's expensive. It makes delivery difficult. It makes you feel sad because all the percentages are really small when you look at your statistics, and nobody wants to be sad. So we're comedians. So what you want to do really is to think about it as, well, what's a good reason for somebody to want to be on my list? And I think one of the biggest skills that you have as comedians, that translates directly into email marketing, is the ability to tell compelling and interesting stories. So everything about our approach to email marketing is story driven. 100% of what we talk about, even though if you join our list, you learn about email marketing every day. Like every single day we email you, and every single day it's about email marketing. The sort of crux of it is about email marketing, but the angle, the positioning, the hook of it is about some random story that happened to us in the last 24 hours. And those stories are interesting, compelling, funny, quirky, unusual, shocking, scary, you know, any emotion you can think of. And so ultimately, when people join our list, they join our list in order to learn about email marketing, but they stay on our list. Truthfully, they stay on our list because you really learn about email marketing once you join our paid programs and all that stuff. So you join our list in order to learn about email marketing, and you do, but you stay on our list because you suddenly become hooked on the stories that we tell and the way that we tell them. And comedians are natural storytellers for the most part. And therefore, that's something that you can really use. So like I said, if you can get somebody on your list who's joining your list because they're interested in the stories that you were telling on stage and they'd like to hear more from you, then that's a really good reason to get somebody on your list. And again, your list is not going to grow as big because you're just going to get the small subset of the audience who are particularly keen. But those people are going to be more responsive. They are going to hang around longer. And again, yeah, so it's not about having the biggest list in the world. It's about having a really small and refined and responsive list.